everybody. Drew from Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective here with a very special short podcast. For those of you that have been in our Discord room, you're probably aware that Will and I have been having a little bit of trouble with our schedules this week. Both Will and I have been traveling for work, and we weren't able to get a recording in before Tuesday's air date. So threw a question out to everybody in the chat room, and got a little bit of Q&A going on for today, just to get something on the feed. You know, this isn't meant to be any big deal or anything like that. It's literally just something to let you know, hey, we're still here, we're still making these, but our schedules suck, and we want to apologize for that. If you're listening to us for the first time, please go back and check out some of our other episodes as well. Hopefully you'll enjoy those, and you'll come back for next week when Will and I should be back in action together. In the meantime, follow us on the web at wdgrpodcast.libsyn.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WDGR Podcast. That's at WDGR Podcast. And of course, like and subscribe. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're there. We're even on YouTube, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. And of course, if you want to follow me on social media, that's at ScionStorm on Twitter and Instagram, and Will is at Will_gear. And just want to thank you all for your patience this week as we kind of regroup. You know, it's going to be an interesting episode when Will and I get back together and start chatting again. No idea what we're going to talk about. I'll be throwing out some questions to everybody a little bit closer to the recording date as well, too. But in the meantime, I'm bringing you this very special edition of Ask WDGR. Ask WDGR, hashtag 001 or something or other. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. And I'm pretty sure you guys can figure that out as well. So, with that said, here we go. This one comes from Lost Monkey. What are your thoughts on PC Gaming Exclusivity? Borderlands 3 releases in September and is exclusive to Epic Games until April 2020. People are not happy. People like me who want it on Steam. You know, this is, I think, a double-edged sword, this sort of thing. And if you look at the landscape of gaming, we're kind of in two different camps. Those that want the lowest possible prices, who believe that competition is good for everything. And then those that want everything in one place. And this is kind of a similar situation to those that are, subscribing to different television streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and now Disney Plus. It's a very similar situation. Competition is good for the industry. It drives innovation. It drives prices lower, generally speaking. And I think it forces everybody to be on their toes. But I get what you're saying. Even with Epic Games delivering a free game each month, it is frustrating, having another app installed on my computer. And I think what it boils down to is at some point you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to have more than one of those apps, more than one of those programs or platforms, and whether or not you want to support the other one. It's not very different from the console wars, if you think about it. How many games were exclusive to the PlayStation or exclusive to the Xbox or Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo. And this sort of thing goes back generations. This isn't anything new, but the delivery method is new for sure. And I don't know. If I had to make a final verdict, I don't like it, but I also don't like paying full price for games. And I think something like this is going to cause developers to be a little bit more aggressive with their pricing in the long run. Maybe not right away. Obviously Epic is going to have control of Borderlands 3 until April of 2020. So that's going to give Epic an opportunity to kind of dictate the price. And there's going to be a lot of people that are waiting for it to release on Steam or any other platform that it might come out on, like Good Old Games or I can't remember the other one, but things of that nature. So I don't know. It's a bad spot, I think, for gamers who don't want both platforms, but I think that there are gamers out there that do. I am not a fan of the Epic Store personally, but I think competition is a good thing, and I think Steam has been in control for a very long time, and maybe it's not a bad thing to kind of ruffle the feathers a little bit. So, this one comes from Puxor, who says, "What's your favorite underrated game? Either a game everyone seems to have disliked other than yourself, or a game that no one's heard of?" Ooh, this is a good question. Well, I think this is a bit of a complicated answer. I'm going to give you two answers on this one. And one's going to go back kind of a ways with the TurboGrafx. I'm going to go with Bloody Wolf, which was one of the first games that I had on the system when my father bought it for me, used from a friend. He had two games, Keith Courage and Alpha Zones and Bloody Wolf. And I have the same very copies that he bought me back in the day. Same system too, actually. Still works. And, you know, I have fond memories of that system because I didn't grow up with a Nintendo. I didn't get into a more popular video gaming experience until Super Nintendo came around. So I was a TurboGrafx kid, which, is a bit of a rarity. Bloody Wolf is one of those games that nobody's really ever heard of unless you're a TurboGrafx person. And I liked it because I think the story was great. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the game. I thought the mechanics were well done. There was a little bit of slowdown here and there. But outside of that, it wasn't anything that was, unbearable. The game wasn't overly cheap. It wasn't, I don't know, man. It's hard to explain. If you've never played it, it is a third person isometric kind of view. And you're playing as a guy from military, like, Marines, that kind of thing. And your goal is to rescue the president. And then when you finally get to the president and you rescue him, shit kind of goes sideways. And nobody's going to play this fucking game at this point, so I might as well do a spoiler. So there's two characters that you can choose from, and whichever one you pick, you'll ultimately have an opportunity to play as the other one because your first character is captured. So the character rescues the president, and then he's captured after the president is saved. And then you become the second player, and you have to go save the first guy, and the first guy gets brainwashed, and ultimately there's a fight between you and your partner at the end of the game. And it's just very epic. And, when you're like 7, 8 years old, like, this is just the coolest shit ever. And the game played well, and it still plays well to this day. And I still pop it on, and I'll sit down and I'll play it for hours at a time. It's just a great game, and one of my all-time favorites. So that would be one. The other one, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, but just to kind of give you two to work off of here, I was a big fan of Star Trek Legacy on the Xbox 360. They also had a version for the PC, and I want to say there was a version on the PlayStation 3, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, it was just starship combat. You can pick up to 4 starships, and you control them as a fleet, and you can issue them orders like attack this guy or attack that guy. And, it did have some sort of a warp speed mechanic, so you can kind of warp away, work on repairing your systems, and then warp back into battle. And it was challenging. It was fun. It supported 4-player multiplayer over Xbox Live. The graphics were gorgeous. The music was great. It had voice acting. The sound effects were spot on. And it did terrible in the ratings. I think it got like 6s and 7s. And I'll tell you right now, I definitely got my money's worth out of that game. I played the shit out of it. I used to play with a number of friends. We would get together at least a couple times a week and just play some starship battles. And it was a lot of fun. And, I just think back about how, you have to really consider what ratings are, and then consider your own personal likes. You can use a rating as a basis for a purchase, but you can't use it as the only reason for a purchase or lack thereof. So always take a look and, kind of give things a little bit of perspective when you're buying them. I think, and that's a perfect example of that. I love that game. And if I go look it up right now, which I will, hold on, I'm going to pause you. And here we go. According to Metacritic, the Xbox 360 version of the game was a 64, according to Metacritic.com, and the PC version was a 56. So, it really didn't do well in the ratings, but I thought it was great. And it wasn't perfect. Definitely wasn't perfect, but it was a ton of fun. And that's a game that I still pop into this day. Puxor also writes in, it's easy to focus on negative it's easy to focus on negative trends. Sir, you wrote a typo. Easy to focus on negative tens. It's easy to focus on negative trends in gaming. What's a positive in the modern gaming industry? Well, we've been chatting a lot about this new mod that just came out, and I know this isn't necessarily a modern thing, but there is a new Dreamcast mod that converts the Dreamcast signal from analog output to HDMI at 1080p. And a lot of people are talking about it. There's been some great videos on this. Digital Foundry did a pretty thorough overhaul comparing it to some of the other HDMI solutions for the Dreamcast. So I'd say that's a positive in the modern gaming industry. I know it's not modern. It's kind of a retro thing, but it's fresh on my mind. But generally speaking, I think this is another one of those double-edged swords too. I think it's great that we as players have direct communication with the developers through social media, such as Reddit, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. By having a direct line to the developers themselves, we can voice our opinions, good and bad. Now, it is very easy to get caught up in the bad. I do enjoy Anthem for all it is, but it is an incredibly broken game. And it is very difficult for me to go on a website like Reddit and look for news on the game when the next patch is coming out, how progresses are going, and then just get caught up in a sea of negativity, post after post after post, just talking about this game is dead, this game sucks, the devs aren't here, just one thing after another. And that's really difficult and really disheartening when you have a game that at its core is fun, but flawed. And that's tough to walk away from without having your own opinion. It's very easy to get swept up in that. But I think at the same time, it's really good that we have the ability to give direct feedback to the developers, because in a lot of cases, maybe they're not playtesting things thoroughly enough, or they're not playtesting to the same standards as a regular player would. They don't have the means of stress testing, a million players at once, as far as I'm aware. So not to make excuses, but there's just so many people playing this game with so many different ways that they want to play it. It's just not possible to recreate the same user experience within a controlled environment. I don't feel anyway. So I think it's great that we can give that feedback directly to the developers. I don't believe that that's an excuse for developers to make a bad game and then ultimately fix it as they go. That's not fair to the players. That's not fair to the people that are spending money. But it is a great way to take a game that's good or very good and hopefully elevate it to a point where it's great. And I think a prime example of that is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky came out, flopped really hard. They underdelivered on almost everything, but Hello Games hunkered down. They went silent, and people were concerned about that. They hunkered down, and then they delivered. And they delivered time and time again. And now they have this game that has done a complete 180 and is in a much better place than it was at launch. And now they're still coming out with free updates and free expansions to it as well, too. This game has become the vision that it was supposed to be originally, and far beyond that as well, too. So I think that under the right circumstances, that negative of direct feedback with the developers can be a positive. Yeah. As far as any other positives go, man, I feel like I'd have to come back to that. I'm trying to think of anything else that comes to mind. But no, I got nothing. Great topics, though. Thank you to Puxor. Thank you to Lost Monkey for sending those in. Folks, if you like this sort of a segment where we do a Q&A, let us know. You know, I'll twist Will's arm and see if I can get him into doing one of these for you guys every now and again, too. It's nice to kind of have something a little bit more direct where we can talk one-on-one with you, the listeners, and kind of get, you know, what's on your mind directly, and maybe answer some of your questions a little bit more directly than we can when we're having a normal conversation on the show. So hopefully you guys like this. You know, maybe we'll do another one of these again down the line. We'll see, but let us know what you think. And in the meantime, check us out on social media at WDGR Podcast. WDGR Podcast. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us on, let's see here, WDGRpodcast.libsyn.com. I promise you one of these days I will make that easier for you. We're also available on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. If you have an app on your phone, we're on the app. I promise you. Just do a search for us. We're there. And yeah, if you want to follow me, Scion Storm on Twitter or Instagram, you can follow Will at Will_gear on the same platforms. And thank you, everybody. By the way, if you are not in the Discord room, the link to the Discord will be in the show notes. Join up. Have some fun with us. It's a great place to hang out, talk about some games, and get some access to these sorts of questions and answers directly. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you next week.